This is a whole problem with the side of let's tax the rich. Well, here's the problem: when the rich provide businesses and provide the capital to then create businesses and create jobs, when they leave, the businesses and jobs disappear. So you're actually net losing out. I mean, there was a famous case where I think I can't remember if it was the Swedish government, but it was one of the governments decided that they were going to tax, billionaires a certain amount of money, and the idea was that it would bring them in, $10 million worth of revenue. So they were applying this tax. It was going to show the billionaires what it was like, and it should be bad, all that sort of stuff. And in reality, they lost $514 million worth of tax revenue because the billionaires just got up and left. Because they don't have financial constraints. They'll go to wherever they're treated the best. So if you're not treating them well, they're going to not only take their money, they're going to leave, they'll take their jobs and they'll set up elsewhere. That's why you've got to have a balance. And this, unfortunately, is not balanced. So public services and education are talking about introducing VAT on school fees, which is, again, pushing more people that would have went to private schools into state schools. You might go, fair enough, but state schools are under pressure as it is. They've got financial constraints and they go, look, well, that's what we need to do. They've got inflation, employment. So employment, again, the national insurance contributions, what you'll have is you'll have companies laying off their staff, you'll have people losing their jobs, and you'll have a lower job growth and might even go negative where there's less jobs and increasing, or the job openings are decreasing, because people are just not bringing on staff because of these increased costs. Investment in economic growth. So again, when you have foreign investment coming in, they're just going to shy away because they think, look, there's better places to place their capital. Housing market is going to be affected with SDLT and consumer spending. If you increase costs everywhere and it's being passed on to everyone, then the consumer is the one that ends up with paying the tab, paying the bill. And we've seen all that. We've seen that with the cost of materials, the cost of fuel. When costs go up, what happens is the available money that people have shrinks. So when that shrinks, then you've got consumer spending that reduces. That then impacts businesses. Those businesses that you're charging extra costs onto, like the national insurance contributions, they then lay off the staff, which then puts further hassle and further pressure on the economic conditions through consumer spending, because people need to tighten their belts. Maybe they've lost their job, maybe there's only one of them working, and it tumbles down. And this is what I mean. This is why you can predict that there's going to be a crash. This won't be a benefit for the United Kingdom. This is going to be a recession for the United Kingdom. And what it goes on to say is that we're going to have sectorial shifts. So that means that there's going to be some sectors that are going to drive through public spending, and then other ones that are just going to shift, and it's not going to play out well. And you go and you look at, even say, for instance, the farmers. The farmers I feel terribly sorry for, because the government seems to be going after them in a massive, massive way. I would love to get a hold of one of the farmers and get them on just to go into a real deep dive on what is happening, because it's absolutely tragic what they're doing. These guys put in a huge amount of work. It's been in the farms have been in the family for generations. They've reinvested, and I mean they're working so many hours, huge hours, and hard graft to just be constantly hunted by the government. And now it's getting to the point where essentially the tax bill from inheritance tax, if the farm transfers onto the next the next generation to farm, they're being hit with a bill so large they're going to need to sell the farm. And that's a bad place to be, because then you go, well, who's buying the farms? And the UK government are like, well, we'll just force that pressure. And it shouldn't be something that should be allowed to do. We should be celebrating our farmers. We should be recognising the great job that they do, and we should be paying attention to what's going on. That this seems to be a bit of a target on these farmers, which is a real backbone of the UK and its food supply. And we should be doing a lot to voice our concerns, because it's one of those things that people don't really see the problem until it's affecting them, and it's getting close. In the food supply, it doesn't get any closer than that. So there's a budget. It can be doom and gloom, but listen, look, things always swing back round. We're seeing what's happening in the United States. We've got Trump, Elon, and Vance just tearing up the political system over there, because There's been essentially in the US a lot of drama, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have done a really good job at running the country into the ground, and people have had enough. Like these guys have had enough. They don't like what's going on. They don't like what's going on behind the closed doors. They don't like what's happening at certain parties. They don't like what's happening at certain islands. They don't like the people that are pulling the strings of these people that we call our political leaders. So the fact that you've got the likes of Trump and Elon and Vance and a few other, Tucker Carlson on the Tucker Carlson network are doing a great job to show this. But one of the greatest ones, especially in the back of the farmer point that we've had, was RFK Jr., who's saying, look, we need to make our nation healthy again. Get all these ultra-processed foods out of the food supply. We need to get out these dangerous chemicals. We need to make our children healthy again. And I think that goes back to where we're at with the farmers. We need to look after our farmers. We need to look after fresh, healthy food that people can get that are not destroying their budgets. And we need to let the free market decide. Just let the free market figure it out, right? Because as an investor and as a capitalist, let me tell you, capitalism works. Capitalism can not work when it's abused and abused. And the same as socialism. Socialism can work well if not abused, but generally it's used as a tool for abuse. And I think the path lies somewhere in the middle, where if you are doing well, we should have no issues with helping out people that are less fortunate. We should have no issues with great food supplies. We should have no issues with housing. We should get our affairs in order, and it starts at home. And we need to do a better job at it. And we certainly need to call out these leaders that are making a mess, because they're so-called leaders that are just running amok. And when they're bringing some of these things in, I don't think it's going to end too well. But look, the future's bright. The future is ahead, and we will find a path. So it's not all doom and gloom. Despite what's in the news, despite what was in the budget, we can still make it work. Because here's the good thing about talent: it always finds a way. And capital flows where it's best treated to, or where it's treated best. So capital and talent will always find the path.